Hey, welcome back to Three Chords and the Truth. I'm your host, Pete Kramer. Episode 25. How did we get this far? Couldn't have done it without Sebastian being over here with us. But yeah, glad you're with us tonight. We got a pretty cool show for you. Again, I'm Pete Kramer. I'm the singer and songwriter for Pete Kramer and the Eastwood Project. Also, just to let everybody know, my book is still available on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, and wherever you buy your books. It's available out there. I'm a licensed real estate agent. I vacuum, dust, do windows, you name it. Do it all. As always, I want to mention my friends over at Special Spaces, Lynn and Bev and Peggy. If you're not familiar with them, check out the Special Spaces website. They do some amazing things. They redo bedrooms for kids with cancer. And I always like to give them a plug because they do a lot of very cool work. As always, join our Three Chords and the Truth Facebook page. Subscribe to our YouTube page. On the YouTube page, you can see all of the previous 24 episodes. As always, feel free to like, comment, ask questions. We can take questions live if you got a question that you'd like to ask. And it's really cool tonight because hopefully the weather doesn't give us a hard time because our friend Keith Shaw is in southern New Jersey, and he said he's got some thunder boomers running through there, and hopefully you won't have any problems with the power and lose any internet, which we've had happen before. But with all that being said, I'll finally shut up because I've been talking for 3 minutes already and bring in our guest this week, Mr. Keith Shaw. How are you, man? Good to see you.
I'm doing great, Pete. And
Good.
the weather is holding out for us. It's like one of those days where everything is going to just work well.
Amen. Amen. Well, okay. Now, I read the email that you sent me about, a little bit about your background and whatnot. I'm totally envious because what Keith told me is that on all of his recordings, of course, he writes the songs. He plays guitar, he plays bass guitar, he plays keyboards, he plays percussion, and sings everything. Probably does background harmonies as well, I would assume. But I'm totally envious how you do all that.
I just kind of did it out of necessity. I see it as a challenge.
Okay.
To me, an instrument is always a learning experience anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Like people say, oh, I know the guitar, but you really never know the guitar. And then I found out you never really know keyboard, and you never really know bass, and you never really know whatever. So you're always learning. So when, about 4 or 5 years ago, when I started really seriously recording my own music, my own compositions, I just said, it's kind of like out of necessity, like I'm here. I already wrote the song. I already kind of have the ear for it. I already know what I want to do.
Right.
So I'll just figure out what to do on the next instrument, the next instrument, the next instrument. And it wasn't until I started on the album Haunted last May. So about this time last year, started on the album Haunted. I said, you know what? Some of these songs, like I'm hearing like a keyboard sound.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a couple keyboards laying around and stuff. And, I started playing around with them, and I said, geez, I can do this and I can do that. So it's really it's out of necessity because I'm here and it makes it easy for me to do it. But it's also a challenge, and it's a hell of a lot of fun. So,
What's your favorite instrument?
Well, I'm sort of, my wife won't like this. I'm sort of married to the guitar because that's the instrument. Besides the kazoo, that was the real instrument I learned first, so that's the one I gravitate to most. Plus, I do a lot of predominantly solo singer-songwriter type things. Mm-hmm. So that's another reason that I've stuck to the guitar as my main instrument. And I've got a number of acoustic guitars that I use depending on what I want to do. Some of them are set up standard tuning. Some of them are set up in weird tunings. Like if you're familiar with Nick Drake, like the Nick Drake tunings.
Yeah.
And it makes it easy not to have to keep retuning in front of people. And I got a guitar that I've dedicated to the Nashville strings setup.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So that's kind of what I gravitate towards first because, for example, actually what's today? Oh, it's the 6th. So on the 7th of August, I'll be doing a a big benefit 2-day festival down in farther down in South Jersey called Elephants for Autism. That a gentleman, Jerry Ryan, does every year. I think this is 15th year or something. He's been doing it for a lot of years. And last year was the first year I got involved with it. And so I'm going to actually kick off the Saturday activities in the singer-songwriter sort of area. So that's why I'm married to the guitar.
Those charity events are always a lot of fun to do.
Right.
At least I think so anyway. But no, guys get pissed off at me because, I'll like the way certain chords sound, but I might have to put the capo on the 3rd fret or the 5th fret or whatever. And they're like, just play it. I said, no, I don't want to play it open and natural and, sight change these chords. And then I've always got another guitar, at least, that's tuned down to just detuning. And they hate me even more for that, because then they'll ask me, well, what chords are you playing? I'm like, I don't know. I'm playing a regular D in E tuning, but it's tuned down to, so whatever the hell it is. But
yeah. I like playing in alternate tunings. I even, for my one song, Ticking, kind of came up with there's nothing really exotic about it, but I have a song, Ticking, that's on the album Haunted. That's a fingerstyle one, and I was trying to figure out an easier way to get a walking bass line in it as I was playing it.
Okay.
So I already had capoed the song up to the 2nd fret, but I was trying to get this walking bass line so it would kind of go like bum 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 bum, sort of like that.
Yeah.
To the best of my mouth bass there. And so what I did was I actually tuned the A string down a whole step, and then I got this nice bass line in the song. So some of the tunings that I use are very simple like that. Some of them are more exotic, but I love open D tuning. I've been messing around with a couple of songs in open D tuning that there's just something about when you get into those other tunings, and you can capo those too if you want to, but there's something when you get into those different kinds of tunings away from the, standard guitar tuning. It's just, you can just, actually, I'll back up a second. There was a, Nick Drake, as we mentioned before, he came up with a lot of exotic tunings or unique tunings. And I started kind of playing around with his stuff a little bit, not that he was like super famous or anything like that, but I heard somebody play a song using one of his tunings and it just caught my ear. And I said, okay, I'm going to copy that tuning. And I just started playing around with it. And just like you had said, Pete, like, what chords are you playing? I had no idea what chords to play. But all of a sudden, just playing around with the guitar, chords started to fall out of it. Yeah. And then I said, geez, there's a song here. And then I ended up writing a song called Firefly Serenade out of this tuning. It just kind of like, it fell into my lap. So you start to get this level of creativity that, so you're not just playing 1-4-5 in the open position all the time. It makes you, and quite frankly, there's a song that I'm messing around right now on open D tuning, and I'm playing along and I say, okay, that chord sounds cool. Okay, this chord progression sounds good. And then I'm going like, wait a minute. So then I had to kind of sit there and then kind of write out what I was doing, because I'm not even sure what the chords really are, but it was just so that I could look at the piece of paper as I'm running through this song that I'm trying to create, so that I could kind of remember what I did. Oh yeah, that's what I played there. Even though that may not be the actual chord name, just as long as I can get the root in there, at least I know what's going on. So,
well, I mention this periodically with other guests, not everybody, but when you're going through the writing process, do you typically come up with the melody first, or do you come up with the lyrics, or what's the Keith way of doing things?
It depends. It really depends on what the motivation is. The motivation can come from different areas, I should say. Sometimes I get like a melody in my head. And then I'll start to say, hey, there's something to that. And I'll just keep singing the melody over and over again and then come up with the words. But then sometimes the words will, like I have a song I haven't recorded yet. It's an album that I'm beginning to work on. Song called You're So Gullible. Like all the words came first. And then I had all of these words and all of these rhymes and stuff, and I had a bridge and all this kind of stuff, but I didn't have like a melody for it, and I didn't have a bass line. So Those kind of things kind of sit in the back of my mind, kind of like in the reel-to-reel tapes in the back of my head, and then kind of play when I'm sitting there. So sometimes words come first, sometimes lyrics come first. Maybe once in a blue moon, they both kind of come together at the same time, but
Right.
it depends. And sometimes like a song comes together, like I'll write out a verse, and then the next day I'll write out another verse, and the next day I'll write out another verse. Like to just sit there and plow through and try to write a song in an hour or something is, to me, is kind of like it's too big of a challenge. I like to kind of write it down, think about it, let it digest, look at it again. If I have some chords to mess around with, that kind of stuff, work on the phrasing a little bit. So I don't have like an outline that I just go down to make it short.
You really can't. And, I'm sure you've seen the same thing. There's a lot of those, for lack of a better word, singer-songwriter pages on Facebook. And these people will say, okay, I wrote 2 songs yesterday. I'm shooting for 3 tomorrow. It's like, okay, if that works for you, I guess it's okay. But, I mean, I got to have some motivation before I'm going to write something.
Yeah, yeah. And sometimes too, you write some lyrics down, and it might take, I don't know, could take a year before you actually feel good enough about them to actually do something with. Like, because maybe you didn't think of those other pieces that come together to make it special. I have a song called "I'm Going Home," that I actually wrote in 2018. I was down in the southwest part of the country, down in Arizona. I'm driving around and seeing all these people on the highway. This is all, pre-COVID and stuff, and driving around seeing truckers and probably, traveling salesmen. And I got this idea about somebody who was a traveling type of a person who was trying to get back home.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't seen his wife, family, girlfriend, whatever, for whatever period of time. But it took me from a year from when I actually wrote the words down on a piece of paper and stuff to actually come up with the song and actually record it. Sometimes it takes a while for that thing to kind of just gel together into something that you feel that you want to spend the time to take to a higher level,
No, I totally know what you mean, because we just finished one a couple of weeks ago that I've had in the back burner for like 10 years. And it was just, when I first recorded it, it was like it turned into this 9-minute monstrosity. And I said, no, I got to get some of this stuff out of there. And when we finally got it, it came out great. It was only 4.5 minutes, but it took that amount of time to do that. And then I don't know if you do this as well, but once in a while I'll get lucky and I'll come up, with a melody and put it on the, digital recorder or something like that, and then write down some ideas that I've got for lyrics and kind of marry them both together, or vice versa, do the lyrics and find out that I already had this melody down there. And that's always a bonus because it takes really no time at all. But
songwriting is not. I like you said, you see these things. People say I wrote 2 songs or 3 songs, and I know there's some organizations, like in the month of February, there's a organization that challenges people to write 1 song every day for like 30 days. It's like kind of in fun. And I imagine you do get the benefit of a creative process out of it.
yeah,
But it's funny when I see these other things on Facebook, and they're kind of like these little ads that say, here's how you can learn songwriting.
oh God.
And I'm going like, well, I'm not sure I ever wrote a song that was like fit some particular pattern, like the song that we're going to listen to. Like the verses are at the beginning and the choruses are at the end. The song we're going to play in a little while. So I don't.
And there's nothing wrong with that. What I mean, you don't have to have verse, chorus, verse, bridge. And anybody that tells you have to, they're just trying to soak you for money because they want to teach you how to write a song. I mean, nobody told Lennon and McCartney how to write a song. They just did it. Either you got it or you don't. And the same thing with Keith and Mick. They're like, well, I guess we're going to have to come up with some original songs if we're really serious about this. And there was no path to follow or course that you would take. But there's a lot of people that are trying to capitalize on that by, trying to say, hey, for $120, we'll give you 3 free lessons. I don't know. It's crazy. But you know what I'm talking about.
And it's like the old learn how to play guitar in 15 minutes ads. Well,
Exactly.
I mean, you might have learned C, F, and G, but
Yeah, exactly. Well, anyway, now let's talk about you. Go back to the beginning. What made you start to pick up an instrument? Made you decide that you wanted to write songs?
I started actually. I didn't start out like most people with an instrument, and I'm just going to say instrument. Period. Doesn't have to be a guitar. It could have been a piano. Could have been trumpet, whatever. I didn't start out when I was a kid. It was something that I wanted to do, but the opportunities weren't there. Didn't have the kind of support system, and I'm not going to say the people that I know, but I know of people who growing up and are actually became very good professional musicians who had a very good familial support system that nurtured them and pushed them. Not like that movie Whiplash, with the drum thing with not like that, but no, I actually did it in a very good positive way. And these people actually kept going and kept going and kept going from, time when they were, before they were 10 years old, and now are very good professional musicians. I didn't have that opportunity. I had more, no, you can't do that than anything else. But then when I got into the 1990s, oh my God, the 1990s, that was last century.
Yeah, right.
I actually saw somebody playing a guitar at a company function, the place that I worked. And I just said, you know what? It wasn't that they were bad, so please don't take it this way. But I was watching them play. They were doing Christmas carols or something. I said, it's time for me to get off the stick and do this. So I went to a music store up in Princeton, New Jersey, and I bought a guitar. I bought an electric guitar. I just kind of flipped through some magazines, and I looked at it, and I went in the store, and I said to the guy, I said, I would like that one that's in the window. And he said, okay. And he took it down and all this kind of stuff and kind of blew some dust bunnies off of it and says, do you want to plug it in and try it out? And I said, no, because I don't know how to play it. I said, I just want to, do it. So I think he showed me like an E power chord and the A power chord and stuff like that. And, just so I could kind of hear it, right? Just in the store. It wasn't like I did, Stairway to Heaven or anything like from Wayne's World. And I just took it home and I said to myself, I'll give myself about 6 months. I said, but I can't get something, at least play some songs in front of some people in about 6 months. Then I'll just say, okay, this was probably never meant to be.
How old are you at that point?
I'm in like my mid 30s.
Okay.
So, I got to 6 months and then kept going for a while and played with a band for about 9 years. And then, because of life, actually stopped playing. I, stopped playing cold. I started a couple of, small businesses that ate up pretty much my whole day from morning coffee to, nighttime dessert or whatever. And, it took a lot of my, physical time, that you always have the mental part, but it actually took a lot of my physical having to be there. So it didn't leave a lot of time for anything else. And back about 7 years ago, I just said, I'm looking at all this stuff, behind me and where you can't even see. And I said, I got to do something with this stuff. Like, do I sell it on eBay or whatever? And I got motivated again. So, it's kind of like the old riding a bicycle thing. Like you remembered all of the basics and stuff like that. And I just started challenging myself to do stuff and then started saying, okay, I've got song ideas percolating in my head. So let's start doing the next thing. So, 4 or 5 years ago, I started recording songs and, it wasn't really good because it was, again, it was like a crash course. It was kind of, how do I use it? How do I use this DAW? Okay, here's this 200-page manual I just printed out. I'm not going to learn that stuff. Like,
we've all been down that road, haven't we?
Yeah, where's the stuff where I just push some buttons and make something come out, So, so there was some trial and error, and then I just got better at it. It's just kind of like a, learn as you go type thing, and that's why I like music, because you're always learning something. You can say, oh, I know all there is to know, but that maybe that's on standard tuning. So throw a bunch of open tunings, open E, open D, or whatever, and next thing you know, you're looking at the guitar going like, oh, what the heck am I going to play now? So I mean, to me, it's like a never-ending challenge.
I don't think there's ever a time where you know all there is to know. I mean, there's constantly something going on that you can learn.
Yeah.
It's, just like life, I mean, there's
Yeah.
always something more that you can come up with. But
Yeah.
now you mentioned that you play, you do what, like solo things, just singer-songwriter gigs?
Yeah, and actually this was something I learned too, was, when I started recording music that I felt comfortable and happy and proud of.
Mm-hmm.
There were a couple of songs that I made that when I produced them, I couldn't play them live because I did all of the parts and
Yep.
I only got two hands, and because I used maybe a lot of electric guitar on it or a lot of keyboards on it, wouldn't translate into solo stuff. So part of the learning process of being a songwriter is, and I've actually heard other people say this too, which I kind of went, you know what, I caught on to a good thing. When I write a song now, I have to be able to not only execute it by myself, like in front of us, like a crowd as a solo acoustic act,
Mm-hmm.
but I also obviously execute it as a song that sounds like there's a full band going on. So that was something that I learned or realized that I should do all the time. So I guess since the last album, I've written probably about a dozen songs, all of which could be executed by me just standing up with a microphone and a guitar.
Mm-hmm.
Or once I get back into the recording process, will be, the ones that need to sound like they have a full band, because some of them will be pretty bare bones, like it'll be just like finger picking and maybe, some percussion accompaniment or something like that. Nothing real heavy, so.
Do you use backing MP3s?
I tried that before. Actually about 4 years ago. Actually, I saw people doing that. So let me say that first. I did
Right.
see people doing that. And some people who were doing it actually recorded all of their own MP3 backing tracks, which I
Right.
went, wow, that's kind of like a lot of work. If you're playing for 3 hours, that's a lot of, and they were doing covers, they weren't doing originals.
Mm-hmm.
But then I found, there's a lot of places where you can actually buy MP3s from, and they allow you can customize them so you can drop out guitar so you could add your own guitar or whatever. And I actually tried that. I probably, over a course of a month, I probably did about 20 times of doing it, and I just was not happy with it. Because one, you got to be like, if you're playing with a band, which I know you have and I have, it's one kind of a feeling,
Mm-hmm.
and you get a little bit out of shape with the time and stuff like that, but that's all right because you're working with each other. But when you're using like a backing track, like an MP3, you got to be like right
Mm-hmm.
dead nuts on like the metronome type thing, or it all goes south on you. And I did that. Actually, I was playing at a resort down in the islands, down in the Caribbean, and after I did that, I said, I'll never do that again. It was not, I did not feel, I felt robotic. I had people come up to me and say, is this karaoke day? I'm going like, no. Oh, can I sing, and they'd say whatever name of the song. No, this is not karaoke. Well, you got a computer there. I'm like, no, it's not karaoke. So, it's not that I wouldn't do it again, but it's not high on my list to ever do again.
I had a friend of mine that I went to see one night, and he relied on that. I mean, all he did was covers, but something crashed on his computer, and I was sitting at the bar. He couldn't figure it out. He just went ahead and took a break, and he comes over. He says, "What the hell do I do?" I said, "Just pick up your guitar and start playing." I mean, you don't need all that background stuff to be able to have the sound. I mean, this is a very talented guy. He's playing both. Sometimes he would be playing the guitar and then reaching over to the piano and playing the piano and then go back to the guitar. I mean, he's a really talented guy. But I'm like, dude, just go on up there and just play. the people came to see you. They didn't come to see your equipment. Well, audio equipment.
Yeah.
Let's go that.
Yeah, that is a whole nother layer of sophistication that if it does go south on you, you're kind of left out there hanging until you kind of, just say, geez,
Yep.
MTV, back when MTV played music, they did a whole Unplugged series, so.
That was part of the best. That was some of the best time at MTV.
That stuff, Stevie Ray Vaughan and so forth.
Yeah.
Unplugged. This stuff was awesome.
Yep. And, your other Jersey compadre, John Bon Jovi and Richie, those guys got up there and did it. But I want to get to your video because, believe it or not, we burned up a half an hour already. But anyway, the one thing I wanted to ask you is that, like, around here in Western New York, if you go out to do a live show, you better be doing covers because otherwise you completely lose the audience. Right. And I know that there's, other friends of mine that'll say that, we'll do the covers and then we'll slip in a couple of originals and not even tell anybody. And then the response we get is really good. But I mean, if you're an original band, people don't give a crap. And that pisses me off because I got sick and tired of playing other people's songs. I got a whole bevy of my own songs that I can play. But you kind of lose the people. And every one of those cover songs that everybody has sang before started off as an original at one point. You got familiar with them because they were on the radio all the time. But that type of business is gone. And I also know that down south, there's places I've gone to. And if you go in and you start playing Sweet Home Alabama, they're going to boo you off the stage. Because if you don't have original stuff that they never heard before, they're going to shut you down. What's it like in the markets that you've played in?
There actually is a pretty good mix. I mean, it seems like if you went to, like I'm going to say a honky tonk, because I'm not going to say what level of bar it is, but like some sort of honky tonk, watering hole type place like that. Probably going to have to be more inclined to play some more covers than originals.
Right.
But there's a lot of great places around here that will support original music. And if you want to throw a couple of covers in because you got your own spin on those covers, you're not playing it note for note type thing, and you got like your own spin on a cover. Right. Those are the places I try to gravitate to. One of the great things since last March was that got me more involved with doing streaming type shows, of which the little clip that I provided to you came from a streaming show 2 weeks ago. There's still a lot of open mic setups around in the area that allow you to play originals. So I don't think there's like a desert where you can only play covers in Philadelphia or people don't like you. I think there's kind of like a nice balance of stuff so you can kind of squeeze stuff in. In fact, when I did 2 weeks ago, well, actually every year on June the 21st, doesn't matter what day of the week it is, it's called Make Music Day. And all over the country, I think it spills out of the borders too, but all over the place on that day, in parks and front porches and bars and music rooms and whatever, people play music. So since people were doing a lot of things that were outside or whatever, and that day was actually 2 weeks ago on this past Monday, was scorching hot. It was just as hot as it was today, about 90-something degrees. I said, you know what? I'm just going to do mine as a streaming show. I did the whole show as original songs. So they were just all original songs and, whatever. But a lot of times I'll just kind of mix it up. I'll throw some, some maybe more obscure covers in, or covers that you normally would not hear people do on a regular basis.
Right.
Like you said, Sweet Home Alabama. So we use that. Everybody who's ever been in a band has probably played Sweet Home Alabama, and they didn't play that Skynyrd song. They played Freebird, right? Freebird, holding up the lighters, right? Right. So I always try to pick songs that, like I said, people don't have an inclination to always cover. So a couple of weeks ago, I was doing something, And I said to myself, I'll throw some covers in here. So I threw like a Dan Fogelberg song in, right? So I mean, I'm sure I think you know who Dan Fogelberg is. It's not like you hear Dan Fogelberg on the radio anymore. He's passed away like 14 or whatever years ago. I mean, great musician, great finger style, all this kind of stuff. So I'll throw covers in of people like that, or I'll throw covers in that like you would never like another cover that I recently did that you wouldn't probably anticipate a solo acoustic person doing like myself is Wild Horses by the Stones.
Yeah, I've done that. Yeah.
Yeah, but
great song.
I did it in Nashville tuning now. So I totally, I checked all the boxes as to make it as unique as possible. But actually that song one of the guitars was in a Nashville style tuning. So it works.
Did you do that on purpose, or did you just happen to have the wrong guitar in your hand?
No, I did on purpose. I did on purpose.
Okay.
I did on purpose because I had actually read something about that song being done that way. And I'd always wondered why it had that kind of chimey stuff. And I knew there was like 2 or 3 different layered type things going on. But then I saw something that said that Richards actually had a guitar that was strung with a Nashville tuning gauge set that he just picked out of, like a shoebox or someplace and then put it together. But it's close enough to the commercial, like a Diodario or whatever you can buy commercially now. Right. And that's why that song has that nice, chimey, light, airy feel for it, even though it's, kind of like a hard edge, heavier song when you look at the lyrics. To me, it is, anyways.
Yep. No, I have to agree. Oh, we got more to cover, but again, we're blowing through time here, like happens every week. So I want to get this video of yours.
Okay.
Keith. If you want to cue it up for us, tell us what it is, what it's about, and.
Yeah. This song is called "Inside," and like I said, 2 weeks ago on the 21st was Make Music Day, so they had Make Music Philly, of course, since I'm right outside of Philadelphia. And "Inside" was a song I wrote a couple of years ago. And it was kind of an idea that I had about all the things that go on in your head.
Okay.
So you have all these, it's like the little devil and the angel on your shoulders thing. Like you got the devil is telling you like, eat that chocolate cake, drink that beer, whatever, drive real fast, blah, blah, blah. And then you got the angel going like, no, you're going to, don't drink the beer, don't do this. Right. So it was like, I was thinking of all of these things and this song kind of came together. And I sometimes joke about it. I'll say it's like the voices in my head, but it's not, then people look at me like I'm, half off. But I recorded that on for the Haunted album. And we're just going to see the one guitar part. But on that song, I actually have keyboards and actually have some percussion on there like marimbas. And I have a 12 string that accompanies the acoustic guitar and stuff like that. So obviously on my album Haunted, shameless plug.
No, we want you to do that.
Shameless plug, part 2. But wait, there's more. Like those old TV K-Tel or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
So I recorded it for this album last year, and some reason it just like I had played the song just with an acoustic solo, and I said I'm going to record this song, and then this 12-string electric kind of sound like a Birds type of a sound kind of started getting in the back of my head, and I said, okay, I got to see if I can make that work once I get the song further along, and so be it. And then put a synthesized string part in it and some marimbas and stuff like that.
All right, well, cool. Well, let's have a listen to it. This is our friend Keith Shaw from South Jersey, and this is his video for his song "Inside." So.
Anyways, here's a song I recently put out. I released it as a single on March 26, 2021. And this little song actually surprised the living daylights out of me because it actually went around the world twice. It started out in Birmingham, England, And from there, it went to Ireland, and it went to India, and it went to New Zealand, and it went to this place, and it went to that place, and Kentucky, and whatever. And I was just amazed, because the radio stations would tag me, and I would see it in my Twitter feed, and I was just amazed where it was bouncing around the world. So it's still bouncing around the world. Because it was the last single that I released, and it's called Inside. It's a song about what goes on in my head. Well, sort of. There's a voice inside my head. He speaks to me in riddles. Think I heard him once before. I think he sounds familiar. There is a voice inside my head. He's acting so peculiar. Always thought him to be strange, but he always says he's normal. Who are we really inside? All the things we try to hide. Some are secret, some are hidden. Some are good, some forbidden. Naked truth mixed in with lies. Some things we don't realize. Deep inside one's history, unraveling the mystery. Oh, oh, oh. Who are we really inside? All those things we try to hide. Some are secret, some less hidden. Some are good, some forbidden. Naked truths mixed in with lies. Some things we don't realize. Deep inside one's history, unraveling the mystery. Inside.
It was Inside by Keith Shaw. What kind of guitar is that, man? That sounded great.
And Alvarez Yairi.
Oh, okay. I was trying to look at the head on it. I'm thinking, is that a Martin? But it didn't, didn't look like a Martin.
Yeah, it's an Alvarez Yairi. I've actually had it for a while, and I didn't really play around with it much. Maybe back in March, I kind of just took it out, and I said, let's start playing around with this thing a little bit, because mostly I played an Ovation, Shallow Bowl Ovation Legend. That was kind of my go-to guitar. But once I set up that guitar for the Nick Drake style tunings, that kind of took that out, and then have a PRS acoustic, but now that's set up for something else. So now this Alvarez Yairi is my kind of go-to guitar. So no matter what I'm doing, that's what I use. But it's a nice guitar. It's a nice setup. The action is nice and low. I put Diodario 12s on it.
Okay.
And it's got active electronics in it. The only beef that I have is, it's nice when you're retuning, you turn the power off so you're not tuning through the amp and making everybody crazy. And unfortunately, when you go to re-engage the power to go through the EQ, it makes this loud sort of a click sound, and it's like, I kind of go like, oh, turn the guitar back on. So,
well, let me if I were to ask you, I think I already know the answer to this, but if I were to ask you what's your favorite guitar, I think it would probably be whichever one suits the song that you're doing with the tuning that you have it set in. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I have, like I said, an Ovation, a PRS, and the Alvarez, for acoustic work. And then, on the electric side, it's like I got like one of each, like a Tele and a Strat and a Les Paul, and I've got a Carvin with active electronics in it. So it really depends. Yeah, it's it depends on what you're doing. If you want if I want some slide, I'm probably going to use, believe it or not, I'll use the Les Paul for a slide because it's
Really?
yeah, because because it's a, oh shoot, I always forget. I always get it wrong because I've had it for a while, but it's a 57 or 59 reissue that I've had for about, I don't know, 15 or 16 years. And once a label fell off, then I forgot forgot what it was. A gold top thing. But it actually, for slide, to me, it has a nice bite to it on a song of mine, Until the Rain Comes, where I said, oh, this song needs something different. Ooh, how about slide? And I played around with my Fender Strat. It sounded too thin, and on on my Carvin, the strings are only 9, so that's not good for slide. And I ended up going with the Les Paul because it just had a nicer, sandpapery kind of like
Yeah.
growl to it. So I mean that's a good one, I think, for me, because I don't use a traditional slide.
Okay.
I actually use a 16 millimeter Craftsman socket
Oh, jeez.
because one, it fits on my pinky because it gives me all these fingers, and it's not going to fall off. But then, kind of weight wise, it's the same as the other slides that I have.
Okay.
So, and I don't know, it sounds good to me. But
If it works for you, what's the difference, right?
yeah, and I can't claim that was my idea. Actually, when I was trying to figure out how to play slide, the guy who was showing me some stuff was actually using it. And I said, what the heck is on your finger? His name was Matt. Yeah, his name was Matt. He says, it's a Craftsman 16 millimeter socket. So I put it on my pinky and I said, oh, that feels good. And I went like this and it didn't fall off. And I just started playing around with it. And, I mean, I have other slides. I have a brass slide and a glass slide and a, slide that kind of looks like the socket, but it doesn't feel right. They're too loose on my hand.
But if it gets you the sound that you're looking for,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. I mean, I was recording something with a friend of mine, Larry. He was on the show a couple of weeks ago. And I remember he had something in his head. And he says, I just don't have... He wound up taking a screwdriver and a glass ashtray, turning the ashtray upside down, putting it on a carpet, and started hitting the ashtray with the screwdriver while I held the microphone to it until he got the sound that he wanted for it. So
Yeah.
I get it, man. It's whatever works for the sound that you're looking for.
Yep. Yeah, I've heard some great ideas that people have used on songs, on albums that, it sounds like it might be drums and they were beating on cardboard boxes.
Yeah, oh yeah.
To get this kind of a, maybe a flatter type of a percussive sound and stuff. So yeah, I mean that's another thing about what's nice, about doing all this stuff by myself is, I, actually on you read something that somebody did, something unique that somebody did on an album. So I have a song that's on Haunted, shameless plug number 3, called I Saw Her Face. So for the backup vocals, I didn't just want to stand in front of the microphone and go, I saw her face, and try to make it sound, because it would just been too much. So I saw this, and I don't know who it was, some famous producer guy who I don't remember, wanted like a choir sound, like a youth choir sound in some song that he was doing, and only 3 kids showed up. So what he did was he took the kids. So here's the kids, like Johnny and Sally and Betty. So he had them in front of the microphone like this, and then he moved Johnny to the middle, and then he moved Johnny to the end, and then he kept moving them around, and however many combinations you could do 3 people in front of the recording microphones. and then layered it so it sounded like it was like a whole bunch of people instead of
sure.
just 3 kids. So when I saw that article, I said, I just, like, it didn't sound right just trying to make different levels of my voice. So I said, I'm going to steal from that idea. So I actually, when I recorded the backup vocals for that, I stood behind the recording mic. I stood off to the one side, I stood off the other side, and then I sat on the floor and sang up. And then layered them all over each other so that it came out sounding like backup, not so much me, but more like backup singers. So I'll try that again. Maybe I'll lay on the floor this time. But I just sat like, because I usually use a Shure SM7B as my main vocal mic, because that works best for my big mouth.
Okay.
And I'm just kind of like sitting on the floor, like with my head back, singing upwards, So I've got like one hand up on where the start button is on the console where the computer is. I'm kind of like click, I'm counting in my head.
That's pretty ingenious.
Yeah, so there's just so much stuff you can do recording. You can sing through a cardboard tube to try to make it sound like a megaphone, or
I've done that.
Whatever, or it's like the sky's the limit.
Yep, nothing you can't really accomplish. But hey, we're pretty much out of time. But I still got to ask you one more question, because just like when you were showing your record before, do you have a website that people can go to?
Yes.
Find your stuff?
Yes. My main website is www.reverbnation.com/Keith Shaw 1, the number 1. Okay. And that's because I found another learning experience. I found there's at least one other person that has my name who happens to be a country style guy who lives in the UK. So unfortunately I had to put the number 1 after my name. And that's why I smush my first and second name together,
right?
My first and last name together, take the space out of it. Because when I first started recording songs and sending to Spotify, they were winding up, because Spotify or any streaming service, they're not really that smart. So if they just see the name, if you're like John Smith, you could be on some other John Smith's thing. So my stuff was winding up on this other guy's thing. And then also I was getting emails or messages through Facebook and other social media saying, hey, are you, and I'm like, no, you got to go to this other guy. He's in Coventry or wherever, England. So that's my website, www.reverbnation.com/Keith Shaw 1. My Facebook and Twitter are Facebook and Twitter, but Keith Shaw Music, all one word, because I beat him to the punch.
Good for you, man.
And same thing with Instagram too. So, I mean, that's my main four things, because you could go, I mean, I see these guys on Twitter, and I don't see them much on Facebook, but these advice people on Twitter, music advice people, and some of them give great advice, and some of them are just throwing stuff out there. Oh, you got to be on all of these social medias, TikTok and this thing, and I'm going like, man, I got other stuff I got to do. So I just stick to those 3 or 4, and that's where I do my promotion, and actually that's how I found you. That's how I found you and your show, Pete. Yep. That's how I found every radio station that's ever who's ever been very nice enough to play any song that I've created. Now, sometimes I've had a station saying, that song's not quite right. Or maybe that song's got a little edge to it, like a political undertone or whatever. But,
each his own.
Yeah. And I say, thank you very much. And I said, when I come up with something else, I'll come back to you. And if that meets your listeners' needs, I'm all for it. So, but you don't need to be on 8,000 social medias. Like I'm not a big YouTuber either. I have to draw the line someplace, so.
Well, and how can people find your album?
Oh, my album, you can download it off of Reverb Nation. You can download the whole album, or you can download individual tracks.
Okay.
Or Bandcamp. My Bandcamp thing, I forgot about Bandcamp, because that's kind of It's like, yeah, the reason I always forget about Bandcamp, because it's not where you really interact with people. It's just there, and people just go there
Right.
and they stream or whatever. So it's on Bandcamp as well. So those are like the two main places that you could get it. And then it's on, like I said, on Spotify and Apple Music and iTunes and whatever the heck is out there. You know, you get these produced, and you know, yeah, I use a place called Disc Makers, which is pretty close to where I live, and then they use CD Baby and they blast it out to 8 million places, and you know, can't keep track of them. You know, you
Yep.
just can't. You
Yep.
know, you
I forgot about Bandcamp because I think I'm on there. I don't remember. There's so many of them, man. And
yeah, there's just so many, you know, and there's SoundCloud and this thing. And I mean, SoundCloud, I just kind of just abandoned, you know, I mean, when I first started posting my music and stuff, I would post stuff on SoundCloud. But then again, like I said, you know, you only got so much bandwidth. Like you got your life to take care of. You got your family to take care of. You got to mow the lawn and stuff like that. Yep. You got to play with the cat who's down here at my feet. And you want to create music. So you don't want to be spending all your time, you know, posting stuff when you could be creating stuff and just get it out to the sweet spots. You get it out to the sweet spots.
The only problem, I use Reverb Nation as well, and I think the only people that go on Reverb Nation are people that are musicians. I don't think anybody else really, you know, goes on there to get music. But I don't know, the way music has changed. There's really, even though there's more places to get music than there used to be.
Oh yeah,
it's crazy because there are so many, and you can't keep up with it. But Keith, I want to thank you for coming on with us, man. This is really cool. You know, I was very glad to have met you, and you know, and I hope people check out your music rather, on Reverb Nation and all the other places that you mentioned. This will also be archived on YouTube, so that, you know, any of your family, friends who weren't able to join in and see you live tonight on this, they can always go to the Three Chords and the Truth YouTube page, and they can see you, as well as all the previous 24 episodes of the show that we've had. So again, thanks for your time, man. It's been
had a wonderful time. I appreciate you having me on the show.
No, my pleasure.
And the power stayed on the whole time.
I know. I was noticing that. I kept waiting for the shoe to drop on that, man.
Yeah. I knew we'd be golden. I thank you very much, Pete. It's wonderful.
Okay. Hey, thank you. And hey, everybody, support local music. You know, support musicians. These guys, everybody, we all work really hard at our craft and whatnot. And till next time, Three Chords and the Truth. With that, we are out. Thank you, Keith.
All right. Good night. Thank you.